Now, there is, and I think this goes without saying, a definite connection between, let's say, the left-hand path and horror. I mean, horror not only in film, but in literature and so on. Practically everyone I know who's on the path also loves horror.
Yes, there's a lot drawn to it. A lot of people.
And you had said something interesting recently.
Genius.
And well, go ahead and
I think what I was trying to say is we were talking about psychological horror
versus jump
scares, and how I saw that as a right-hand path, left-hand path. In terms of, there's no threat in a jump scare. It doesn't. There's a thrill, but there's no real fear.
And
you know what I mean?
It's the filmmaker kind of dragging you along.
Yeah.
Of course, all films are going to manipulate you in some way. I mean, that's
sure.
the whole idea of story is
Sure.
to,
But I see it as external when it's something like that, because it's not threatening you. When you see a movie that's a psychological horror, like let's say Hereditary or The Witch or something, you are going deeper into yourself, and what are you going to discover? Is how I see it.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Where the other is just, you're sort of just riding the surface and you're being dragged along.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been a lover of horror since I was a little guy. Mm-hmm. And originally it was those classic horror films, Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, so on. We, for instance, watched Bride of Frankenstein recently, which is...
It's phenomenal.
It's a great movie. To this, it still holds up.
Yeah.
Movies,
and it has so many elements to it. It's campy. It's kitsch. It's,
it's horrific. It's got every kind of element. I mean, and I remember watching it when I was a kid. I was just titillated by the whole thing.
Sure.
But now watching it, and I see the camp level in it, and the humor, and Dr. Pretorius, the one who gets Dr. Frankenstein to help him make the bride.
Mm-hmm.
He's
done.
I mean, Freddie Mercury would go, "That's a queen."
You
know what I'm saying? Yeah, where of course as a kid you don't see
pick
that.
Up on that.
But he was tremendous.
Yeah.
What was his name? Ernest Thesiger, I think it was. Fantastic actor. But anyway. But yeah, it started with those wonderful films. And then it went on to literature. And, of course, learning about Edgar Allan Poe in school. Mm-hmm. The Telltale Heart. Yeah. That story.
Yeah.
The eye. The old man, his eye. And I had to kill him because that eye. I absolutely love that story. And then later on, H.P. Lovecraft for me. Yeah,
it was Poe for me. He's my favorite.
That's why you're a Victorian goth.
Yeah.
For me, then it became Lovecraft. Now, dissecting Lovecraft, and practically everyone I know on the left-hand path loves Lovecraft, or has some connection toward him. Now, initially, there's another example. When I was a kid reading it, I didn't get the metaphor. And his metaphor is, you don't fucking matter. Yeah. And the whole scheme of things. Now, he had an obsession with astronomy. And the more you learn about, the universe, the more you realize how insignificant and
absolutely.
Small you are.
Yes.
And so the theme in his stories, not all of them, but the theme behind the old ones, for instance, is there is this vast and different force, in the case of the old ones, that really doesn't give a fuck about you. Because they rarely really affect human beings. They're not like malicious attacking the human beings. It's just human beings are in their way.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it just shows, this vast and different universe. And that at its core, deep down, is very horrific, because everyone would like to think, they're special little snowflakes and that they matter in the whole scheme of things. Or Christians would like to think, God has put me on the earth for a meaning, and there's meaning behind my existence, and blah, blah, blah. When in truth, it's not about you looking for the meaning of life or whatever, and so on and so forth. It's you creating meaning for yourself.
Right.
And that can be a twist on the Lovecraftian message. Is then, okay, if, like I said, this is a vast and different universe, he doesn't give a fuck about you, then it's your job to create meaning.
That's right. Exactly.
Within this
Yeah.
this reality, if you will.
And what I'm thinking of is when we, for the last 4 years, our Northern California has been burning down, pretty much, and we were on evacuation orders and all kinds of stuff for far too many times. But I remember, hearing people or say on, wherever, social media, or they talk about karma. So we had to have done something bad, let's say, or God was angry at us, right? The neighbor there.
Oh, her, the crazy.
Yeah, and I'm quite comfortable knowing that the earth doesn't give, or nature doesn't give a F about you.
Doesn't care.
Does not care in the least.
No, you're just, after human beings are long gone, the universe will keep on chugging along.
I mean, I'll fight to survive anything, but I'm not going to blame nature. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's completely...
I'm not angry at it.
And then with me after, of course there are many different horror writers I read, but then the next one that really just was a kick in the head. I remember first reading his work in 1987, I believe it was. And that was Clive Barker.
Oh, yeah.
And then the movie Hellraiser came out. Now, I don't know if people are familiar with his short stories. His short stories are incredible. Yeah. When Stephen King first read Clive Barker's short stories back in the 80s, he goes, "This guy is better than I am now."
Really?
Yeah, he admitted, forget it. This guy is, in his, like I said, his short stories are especially short stories, are phenomenal. And now everyone is familiar with Hellraiser, of course. And the thing about Hellraiser is, all right, you watch these movies, or let's say the first two Hellraiser movies, because the rest aren't worth a shit, really. Some of them are okay, but the first two are really damn good.
Yeah.
Now, what makes them good, because they look really dated now, some of the acting isn't all that wonderful.
No, it's not.
Special effects are pretty cheesy. But what makes them good is Clive Barker understands the human psyche, whether he even realizes it or not, and he goes deep. For instance, in Hellraiser, the first time you see the Hell Priest that everyone knows as Pinhead, and he's gathering up pieces of Uncle Frank that had been ripped apart. That image, it still, to this day, sticks with me. I remember first seeing it and going, holy shit, what is that? Yeah. And the whole idea, especially in the first movie, where you don't know what or who the Cenobites are. You don't exactly know what this hell is, because it's not the hell that we know from the Bible. That idea of this other dimension or universe of pure pleasure and pain and so on.
Yeah.
And he was, in a sense, kind of indifferent too, because he wasn't really all that bad.
No.
Because he ended up getting the bad guys in the end of the movie, in a sense. So I loved all that. I absolutely loved it. And then, like I said, when it came to like the third movie on, it's like,
forget it.
God. But now, here's the question: what makes great horror great?
Is that a personal question?
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Slow burn. For me.
Psychological.
Psychological, yeah.
not the jump scare bullshit
No.
horror. You know, where it's constant jump scares, you know, loud sounds, you know, the cat at the window, the friend patting you on the shoulder, and you turn around and there's a loud sound, and oh my God, it's only my buddy, all that bullshit. Where what that does is that relieves tension. It constantly relieves tension. So finally, the end of the movie comes along. You know, the tension is subsided to such a degree that the big climax isn't very climactic.
Right.
You know, this. Okay, my friend Bobby. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Bobby the musician,
Yes,
Bobby
I
the
do.
drummer. Okay. He. This is crude as hell. Before you go on a date, he would work his man. I'll put it that way. And that's what this. Why I don't know. I guess because he thought he would. I don't want to go into it. But anyway, that was his thing, and he would admit to it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's kind of the same way with these jump scares.
Oh.
Do you see what I'm getting at? It's like you've already kind of, you know, the climax isn't going to be that
Yeah.
much of a climax
Yes.
by the time it comes.
Yeah. That's a good story, actually.
It's a bit crude, but
You know,
you get my point.
Of course. And well, the thing that I always think of too when I see or hear about jump scare movies or whatever, in all my years working in ER, it's just, oh come on, they just don't affect me anymore.
Oh yeah. It takes more than gore because you've seen the real thing.
Oh, yeah.
You've wiped brains off of, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wiped the brains out of a guy's ears and off his chest. One had been in a car accident. I had to do it quick too because the police were bringing his family in to identify him.
Jeez.
Right. And so, but in a trauma center, you never know what's coming.
Oh, so
all
there's
day
that.
long.
That's
Right.
That's where the tension lies.
That's where it
is
is.
the unknown.
Yeah, because you have to completely keep readjusting yourself to
Yeah.
every new situation, right?
Yeah. So that's where the true tension is. It isn't with the gore.
No.
It's with the unknown.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting.
You remember when we were talking on the phone? I was walking home it was after midnight from a shift, and it was so busy, and I'd forgotten I'd seen the two heads on the shelf in the morgue. You
In
remember me telling you
plastic
that?
bags
Yeah,
or
they're in
something?
plastic bags. I guess the coroner forgot to put them back into the forensic lab lockup, and I didn't even think twice about it. And I had to
Until
think
you were walking
until I was
home and-
walking, and then I stopped. Holy shit! What did I see?
Well, at least it was in the morgue. It wasn't
I know. What the hell?
It wasn't like in the cafeteria or something.
That's right. Yeah. But
Okay, now bringing it up to date. Besides horror and literature, okay, horror films like we were touching on, the horror lately that's worked for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's been a few pretty good films, you know, but one film stands out above the rest, and that's come out within the last year, and that's Hereditary.
oh,
And
that is a fine film.
And I know some people would go, oh, it's slow and it's boring and blah, blah, blah. There's so many layers to that film.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that scene that takes place about a half hour into it,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you just go, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it away just in case
No.
people haven't seen it. And then the whole, it gets into family dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
These are real people. These aren't one-dimensional characters
Oh,
like
no.
most horror films where you got the jock guy and the
Yeah.
sexy girl and the girl with glasses who will survive, you know.
All the little
Yeah.
cardboard cutouts.
Yeah, the cliches, and you know who's going to die and who's, you know, not with these are real people. You and the acting is flawless.
Oh, yeah.
From everybody in this film, especially Toni Collette, the mother. You see real people. So see that right there is the important factor. When you have multidimensional real people who experience something fantastic, be it horror or sci-fi for that matter, or fantasy, when you have real people in fantastic situations, then it draws you in. It
Oh, you
absolutely
become invested in the character and the movie, and
because too many horror films are one-dimensional, and
Yeah.
you don't give a crap.
no, you don't care if she
you
dies.
You don't care if they die.
Oh, sorry about that wood chipper.
Yeah, it's the mad slasher films from the 80s and
Yeah.
into the 90s and so on. It's people, oh, they're classic. No, they're crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was just the dead teenager movies. I hated them even back then when I was
Yeah.
younger. They didn't do anything for me. That's why when Hellraiser came out and I saw that, I was wow.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fear in Hellraiser. It was, lack of better description, titillation. It was
Sure.
excitement. It was like, I can relate to this in some weird, warped way, you know?
Yeah.
And it was so imaginative. Because if it's something that I can't think up or I can't imagine, then it's good. You know what I mean? But if it's something that, fuck, I could write in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something predictable, something cliched.
Oh, I know you could. Less than 10 minutes.
Why, thank you.
You're welcome.
You flatter me.
I know I do.
But anyway, in conclusion, left-hand path in horror. There's truly a connection, and I think a lot of it isn't so much the fear from the horror or the
No.
titillation. It's a certain comfort.
Oh, sure.
It's something you can identify with.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
something
that's it.
in there.
That's exactly it.
The shadow, because the people on the left-hand path tend to be closer to their shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And this might be a reflection of their personal shadow, so they find a certain comfort in it.
Yeah.
Just a theory.